Welcome to the Odds Breakers, number one place for shared, sharp betting information.
Welcome back to podcast 14 of 2020. I'm your host, Kiev O'Neil. You can follow me on Twitter at OBKiev, follow us at The Odds Breakers, and follow us on social media / The Odds Breakers. This episode is being brought to you by jazzsports.ag, and they have a hell of a promotion for you. 200% sign-up bonus. Up to 200% for March Madness. If you need a sports book, they have a great deal. Check them out, jazzsports.ag. Terms and conditions and locations apply. If you'd like to help us out with our costs, sponsor the website and podcast, we would love to help you out. Please visit theoddsbreakers.com, click shop, and become an Odds Breakers member. For $17.99 a month, you can get my plays and premium plays before the line moves. For $2 more, you can have all that and become a patron subscriber. Get the podcast a little bit early. And if nothing else, please visit theoddsbreakers.com and become a free picks newsletter subscriber. Well, my friends, the weekend wasn't the greatest for sports betting. We actually had some pretty awful beats and some bad chokes on some teams. But there was a few highlights that were good. Hit our Utah State plus 350 to win the Mountain West Conference. That helped. Our Oregon plus 250 to win the Pac-12 regular season came through. The only other bet we had was Louisville plus 400, so profitable on our future bets. I think I might add NC State at a half unit or something too. But either way, at least a unit up on our future bets. It's the only conference bets we made preseason, so that was decent. But lots of choking happened this week. Virginia against Louisville. Louisville they couldn't even score. It was 51-51 with like 5 or 6 minutes left in this game. We have the over 114 and everything saying over 90% probability that thing's going to hit. Louisville couldn't hit a shot for 5 minutes straight. It was absolutely frustrating watching that, and was pretty pissed off, especially when we had great line value on it. I think it closed at like 116.5. Another one we had great line value on was North Carolina. At the end of that game, they couldn't buy a free throw. Pretty big disparity there, and could have hit a last shot to cover the spread, but they pretty much missed everything. That was brutal. Couple of other plays like that, won a few of them, but it wasn't a profitable weekend for that side of the game. But on Monday here, we are 2-0. Was happy about that. Ohio covered, and so did San Francisco in the first half. So getting back on the right side here. Conference championships, though, are rolling here, and we are having a great time checking them out. We're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going solo today. I'm going to give you a little bit of a Big Ten preview. I'm going to talk about a few games, maybe one or two Big Ten games coming up here. I'm actually going to be at Wager Talk tomorrow, checking out the guys, Marco, Kelly, Ralph, and Brian, and some of the other guys there. Might be on some videos, so make sure you check out Wager Talk and their website, and obviously their YouTube channel. So we'll see what happens there. Excited to see the guys again. And now that's March Madness, Major League Baseball is coming up. We're going to have a special guest for you on Thursday talking a little bit about some baseball futures. I think you know this man pretty well. So I'm going to keep it a surprise for you. I actually handicapped baseball, did a pretty good job last year, and going to be giving out baseball plays to our subscribers, to our premium subscribers as well, and a few free ones here and there, just like we do basketball, football, and other sports. And if you happen to do Major League Baseball, or the NBA, please feel free to contact us if you'd like to contribute to the Odds Breakers, get your name out there a little bit. You can start by doing some articles and possibly get on a few podcasts. Always looking for people that enjoy handicapping sports, that are always trying to learn about it. Even the best handicappers are always learning. Love collaborating with people. So if you'd like to come on, love to hear from you. Mr. Paul Napier, our NASCAR guy, killed it again this weekend. He hasn't even had a losing weekend yet. I mean, you're losing money if you're not taking his plays every single week. He's a NASCAR master. He's better than the books. I don't think the books even really concentrate on NASCAR that much. Paul's been absolutely killing it. So really happy that he's off to a great start. He's putting out some great podcasts on our website as well. So bravo to Paul for everything he's been doing. Lastly, I want to make sure I remind you that our NCAA Tournament Challenge is out on the website, theoddsbreakers.com, where we are giving away money via gift card, $250 for first place, $150 for second place, $50 for third place. All you need to do is sign up for free and retweet the pod, and or just give a 5-star review on Google Play or iTunes. Shoot a screenshot of it and send it to admin at the Odds Breakers. Really appreciate you guys coming on. It's going to be a fun tournament this year. Lots and lots of parity. We have a listener question I wanted to quick discuss. Chris asked about taking like a smelly dog in a conference tournament and hedging and trying to make some money off that. Like I used Iowa State, for example. I think they're at 50 or 100 to 1. Well, the answer is, unless you think they can get to this, at least the semifinals, better even the finals, then it's possibly a very bad bet. Because if you're going to start hedging that thing, you're going to be laying minus 300, minus 400, minus 500 pretty quickly. And that happens to add up. Say you got 50 to 1, you put $100 down, which is 5,000. The first game you have to hedge, lay about minus 300, let's say. And then all of a sudden they win. And you're like, okay, well, now you're in for $400. And the next game you have to lay it's minus 400. That means you're going to have to lay roughly $1,600 to get your $400 back. So, and all of a sudden they win that one. Then you're in for $2,000. Then pretty soon you're way past the amount you would have made anyway if they keep winning. And then they all of a sudden lose in the final game and you are out everything. So you have to be very careful. If you're going to make a play, at least try to know that they have a legitimate shot to get to the final game or get to at least the semifinals. When I do it for the NCAA tournament, I do it thinking they have a shot at the Final Four, possibly start hedging at the Sweet 16 as long as you're getting 50 to 1, because there's still 4 legs after that. There's a Sweet 16, the Elite 8, then there's the Final Four, and then the championship game. So that's a lot of legs, and you just hope it's not just one of those nasty dogs that you bet that is going to be laying huge juice. And like I said before, I only like to do like 40 or 50 to 1 or better, like we did on most of the teams we did before the end of the year. All right, I'd like to cover a little bit of the Big Ten rankings and some slight changes that happened. Still have Michigan State at number 1. They are definitely the hottest, well, the second hottest team, but they are the most explosive, the most dangerous team in the Big Ten. Ran through Ohio State their last game. They are definitely feeling the madness themselves. Everything's looking up for them. Won their last 5 games in a row here. 3 of them were away. So they are definitely the favorite coming into the Big Ten tournament, as you all know. Number 2, I still have Maryland. Maryland finished the season okay by beating Michigan. They did lose the previous 2 games against Michigan State and away at Rutgers, and that was an overtime game. Forgive them for that. But actually, no, that wasn't an overtime game. That was just a bad hiccup, but Rutgers needed that game very bad. Rutgers went overtime against Purdue the next game. That's what they did. And actually got an away game. But anyways, I still have Maryland at number 2, but not huge difference between Maryland and Penn State, in my opinion. I still have Penn State number 3. It's kind of a disagreement that I have with the most of the rankings out there. Still think that there's a lot of upside with Lamar Stevens there and Mike Watkins. Obviously, Marion Jones he's back, and if he starts playing better, then look out. Number 4, I have Illinois. They just finished out their season beating Iowa. Almost choked the game away. That was another one of our strange beats when they were up by 16 points with 5-6 minutes left and only win by 2, but couldn't hit any free throws at the end there. Ayo DeSumo is a great player, going to be playing in the NBA, in my opinion. Trent Frazier's good. Georgi Benzamishvili needs to step up a little bit more, though. He's been kind of cold. Number 5, I have Wisconsin, and they are the hottest team for sure in the Big Ten, but they are not the best. And I think, they've caught some teams at some good times. They had their rough patch already. They had their hard patch. They had a easier finish to this season here. Wisconsin, last 4 games, got to play. Michigan was a great win. They did go to Michigan, and they got Minnesota at home, Northwestern at home, and then away they barely beat Indiana. And still great job. I mean, winning away is just fantastic in the Big Ten. And I don't know how the hell this team got so hot, but pretty happy. And Coach Gard just got the Big Ten Coach of the Year, and that's pretty awesome. He deserves it for what he had to play with here. No stars. This is the first time since 1948 that a regular season champion in the Big Ten doesn't have a first or second all-conference player. Okay, you have to give Greg Gard huge credit for that. No 4 or 5 star recruits playing or starting on this team. Lost their best recruit, definitely not their best player that turned out, and Kobe King. So huge props to what Wisconsin has accomplished. They are the number 1 seed in the Big Ten. Can't believe it. Absolutely amazing. Ohio State, I have next. Very complete team, but they have some injury issues. Kyle Young's been injured, and obviously DJ Carton missed most, probably this last third of the season due to leaving school and some bad grades. I don't even know if he's eligible to come back. But Caleb Wesson is still a beast. His brother Andre Wesson has to be a little bit more consistent himself. So Ohio State, pretty complete team, but nothing. I just don't see how it's going to push them over the edge. They take a lot of 3-point shots, and they don't make enough of them away. Their away game isn't quite as good. Next team is the Iowa Hawkeyes. They kind of had a little bit of a slump here at the end. Iowa lost to Illinois. They did come back. I did like that. They kind of fell right below Wisconsin and KenPom, but they lost their last game before that against Purdue at home too. Purdue slammed them, and Purdue looked like a great team. For some reason, when Purdue plays Iowa, they look way better than they have been playing all year. I don't know how that is, but because of those last 2 games, Iowa skid a little bit. The next team I have in the Big Ten power rankings is Michigan. And I say rankings because I'm not giving you the power rating on it. I'm just giving you how I rank them. I personally use efficiency equations and algorithms when I come up with handicapping more than looking at straight power ratings. But Michigan is next, and Juwan Howard did a pretty good job his first year, but he's no John Beilein yet. I think he's living a little bit off of Xavier Simpson. He's doing a fantastic job. He's kind of the leader of this team. This team goes as far as him. Isaiah Livers is back now, and he's doing a good job. John Teskey is, when he's on the court and he's not winded, he's doing a good job. So a couple guys on the bench I like. Austin Davis has done pretty well, but they still lost a lot of guys from last year. Brett Zingis, Jordan Poole, Charles Matthews. That's still hurting this team, in my opinion. That's why I don't think that they can quite make it all the way in the Big Ten tournament. But I do think that they have a shot at maybe upsetting or winning one or two games in the tournament. I think Franz Wagner over there, he's young, he's a freshman. He's kind of a wild card to this team. So we'll see if he steps it up. Very possible. Next, we have the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. Steve Pakeel's doing a great job over there. Geo Baker's back and finally healthy, as you saw them win their last two games. They are now dancing, and they haven't danced in a long time. Huge job. Huge. I came into this season thinking this team was bad because they lost some pretty big players, especially when Eugene Omayuri transferred to Oregon. I thought that they were in some serious trouble. They lost Shaq Dorson, and they ended up better than last year. So Montez Mathis is doing a great job. And how about Ron Harper Jr.? Rutgers, great job. But I'm wondering how motivated they are to win the Big Ten tournament. Are they just happy that they made the dance? I don't know. Purdue is next, and they're in some trouble. They are definitely a bubble team. Matt Painter needs to get these guys going. I think that they have great guys down low, obviously, with Travion Williams and with Matt Harms. He's that 7'3" beast down there, but they don't have enough guard play. Jahad Proctor needs to be better. He does. I think Eric Hunter needs to be better as well. 35% from three, that's okay. But Proctor at 31% from three, it's not going to do it. Sometimes this team's hitting threes and they can look like the best team in the Big Ten. You know, when they beat Iowa, when they beat Indiana at home. You know, so sometimes when they beat Wisconsin at home back in January, they looked awesome. But they got to be a lot more consistent. A lot more. You know, especially if they want to get anywhere in this tournament. Indiana next. And Indiana is another dangerous bubble team in this tournament. Desperate. They're going to have to win some games here. They have so much talent. But Archie Miller hasn't put them together. And poor Archie Miller came from Dayton, right? Didn't he coach at Dayton? Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did. Now look at Dayton, right? So Indiana fans are sick of putting up with them. They play some good defense. They just kind of choke under some pressure. As you saw against Wisconsin, they had plenty of opportunities to win that game at home, and they didn't. And, thanks for that. Wisconsin made the number one seed and got a share of the Big Ten regular season title. Minnesota is next, and this team, they destroyed Nebraska at home, scored over 100 points. I believe they scored 107 points. I don't know where their mind's going to be, though, coming into this tournament. They need to win it to get into the big dance. They are probably going to be in the NIT. I think they're a dangerous team in this Big Ten tournament. Marcus Carr, he can be a lot better. He was a transfer from Pitt, but if he can just get it together with Gabe Kalsher, they're going to be fine. And they're going to win some games in this tournament. And they're on the right side of this Big Ten tournament here. We'll talk a little bit more about the seeding in the Big Ten tournament in a few minutes. There is a new number 13, and it is not Nebraska anymore because it's Northwestern. And Northwestern beat Nebraska twice this year. So, unfortunately for Nebraska, they absolutely stink. They're one of the worst teams, ranked 196 since February. Definitely the worst team in the Big Ten. Northwestern is better, especially now that Northwestern just beat Penn State at home. So Fred Hoiberg, his team's really young, but they have to get it together. Cam Mack's their best player. They need to start playing as a team. They play so fast that they lose fast. So just kind of remember that. And Northwestern, nice job, Chris Collins. Got a couple wins here. Your last 3 games, you won 2 of them. Pete Nance is doing a great job down there. Miller Kopp has turned it up a little bit. This team's going to be dangerous in the Big Ten tournament. I think they're going to be overlooked, and they play Minnesota. So I'm wondering what Minnesota's thoughts are coming into this. And right now it's about an 8.5, 9-point spread. And I'll probably talk a little bit more about that later. Possibly it might be a play for Wednesday. But as of right now, I don't want to fade Northwestern as a very, very big dog. I would much rather fade Nebraska. Speaking of the Big Ten tournament, their seeding has happened, and I absolutely think it sucks. It absolutely sucks. And because I wanted to be on some of those teams, like possibly Penn State. I kind of wanted to be on Purdue with how desperate they're supposed to be. You know, I was expecting it like 30-1, 20-1. But to be honest with you, they're all on the worst side of this bracket. They are on the Michigan State, the Maryland, Penn State side. As you know, Michigan State, Maryland, and Penn State are my top 3 teams in the Big Ten. They're all on one side. And then my number 4 and 5, Wisconsin, Illinois are on the other side, and then Ohio State number 6 is right back in at the bottom. How the hell am I supposed to bet on Penn State at 9 or 10-1 at that position? I'm not even sure if I'd like it at 9 or 10-1 up there, because the truth is these sports books that put up these conference odds are absolute dog shit. These conference odds, for the most part, are absolutely terrible. For some reason, last year wasn't that good either. They just keep getting worse and worse. So, to all these sports books out there,
you suck!
And you're not going to get much of my money, I'll tell you this. I would rather do a money line rollover, mechanical parlay, where you bet the money line on a team, and then you take your winnings and your initial bet and do it again the next week and do it again. Because in most cases, that's going to pay you a lot more than these terrible odds that they have out there. I'm extremely disappointed with some of them, and just having like Rutgers at 8-1 to win the Big Ten tournament, right? They're 11-9 in the Big Ten, playing the second day, and they're only 8-1. Ohio State 8-1. Iowa 8-1. What the hell is that? Those are terrible odds for these teams. Okay, so if you're thinking any of those teams, make sure you do a money line rollover. To be honest with you, like I said before Penn State lost to Northwestern, I was kind of hoping Penn State would be on the other end of this bracket. I didn't know Wisconsin's going to end up being a number 1 seed. It just all turned out that in my opinion, the best teams are on the bottom. Now, Wisconsin, like I said, very hot, very dangerous for some teams, but they also can lose to pretty much any of the top 12 teams in the Big Ten on any given night. So right now, I'm leaning moneyline rollover on Michigan State. I haven't made a decision yet, but looking at this tournament, Michigan State is the best team in the Big Ten, and they're kind of hot right now. As you can see, they're very explosive. They're just kind of taking care of everybody in their way. It's March. It's March Madness. It's Izzo time. Michigan State has the best chance, in my opinion, to win, but I don't think it's worth plus 275. Maybe it's worth plus 350, but I'm not gonna play it at plus anything below plus 350. I haven't decided. I would just do the money line rollover if that was it. They still have 3 legs to do this, and they'll be favored the whole time. But say they're averaging about minus 150 for the 3 legs, right? So you start with $100, you lay minus 150, you win $66, and then you take 66, add it to it, For the next game, you lay minus 150. You win $110. So 110. Add it to the 166. You have 276 for the final leg, laying minus 150. You are at 182 profit. 276 plus 182, 458. So minus the 100 out you started out, you already got over 3.5 to 1 at laying minus 150 on a money line rollover. So as you see, the money line rollover in many cases can be a lot more profitable. Now, you have to assume that Michigan State's going to play, Maryland. Obviously, if they're playing the worst dogs, then yeah, the plus 300 or plus 350 would be better than the money line rollover. But the problem with money line rollover, you have to kind of be on it and do it every single day. So the point is, these odds for the most cases are not good, and don't do the books any favors by playing them. As a matter of fact, just ignore it and let the books just sit there with their numbers. What I think you should do. One team that I do kind of like on the top, if it's not going to be Wisconsin, I guess it's the other obvious choice, being Illinois. I can make a case for a lot of teams up there. I can make a case for Minnesota for how desperate they are, to make the run. As you can see, Minnesota has played some pretty big games, and they lost 8 of their games by 6 points or less. So for some reason, they just couldn't put teams away. But maybe now that they're desperate, they're going to play better. They did beat Wisconsin at home by a lot, by 18. They beat Ohio State away. They beat Penn State at home. They beat Michigan at home. So it is possible. But, I guess I kind of like Illinois because of how explosive they are and how young they are. I think they have a shot. I just don't love the 10-1 too much. 10-1, you got to figure that they're going to be plus 250. Yeah, maybe plus 200 against Michigan State. I guess Wisconsin would be at least plus 140, plus 150. Hard to tell. But either way, I think Illinois has some upside because they're kind of a complete team. They do mess up a few times. They turn over the ball, and they tend to choke a little bit. But being they're so young, this could be the team to be on. They're pretty hungry, and I really like their coach, Brad Underwood. All right, let's move on here to another conference that I actually did make a play on because I found some really good odds. And we talked a little bit about it last week with Lee Sterling on the show. I'm looking at the ACC, and I'm looking at North Carolina, and I see them at a book. I'm not even going to mention who they are. You can probably figure it out yourself. Pretty common book. It is offshore 10-1. Terrible odds on that. I found it on 5 dimes earlier today at 60-1 for North Carolina. Okay. Well, it's now down to 37-1. I gave it out at 60 to members. But that's my free play and free future because North Carolina is that desperate team. And I know they lost to Duke by 13 points, couldn't score at the end to cover the spread. But if you look at that game, Duke had a ton more free throws than them. I think it was like 33-20. And that's going to happen, obviously, at Cameron Indoor. And North Carolina at home played Duke really well and lost in overtime. And they also had a nice little run where they beat NC State, Syracuse, and Wake Forest. They kind of got healthy at the right time. They're actually ascending. They're getting better. Cole Anthony is a fantastic guard, and he seems very motivated to win. Brandon Robinson's doing a great job. Garrison Brooks is doing a fantastic job. Bacot's getting better. The team has some turnover problems, but they got a little bit better at that. They're starting to shoot a little bit better, play a little bit less haphazardly, and they play fast. But what I do like is that Roy Williams has been there before, and North Carolina is desperate. They haven't missed the NCAA tournament in a while. And I don't think Roy Williams wants to do it now. This is their ticket in. And they are on the correct side of this tournament. All right? The correct side. And that's what I really like about them. This also is another one of those situations where the bracket has the best two teams on one side, Florida State and Duke, because Duke's a number 4 seed and Florida State is a number 1 seed. They're on the same side. Yet I think they are the best. And Louisville, they're pretty good. They can beat Duke, but they can't seem to beat Florida State, and they sure couldn't beat Virginia last game. They're kind of a boomer bust team-ish. A little bit more consistency than that. But you saw Louisville losing the tournament last year against Minnesota. And then you have Virginia there. They have their own issues. Can't score the ball well. They're playing a lot better, which we saw happening. But I still think they're a little bit...
You are fake news.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that they're real. And congratulations to them for making the tournament because I love Tony Bennett, obviously. But more importantly, North Carolina, they're going to have to play the first day, right? They are. So they have to at least be 30-1 to make this worth it. Otherwise, it's money line rollover, nothing, right? So they get Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech's beaten down team, all right? They get Syracuse next. As you can see, Syracuse was already handled by North Carolina recently. You know, Syracuse is an okay team, but North Carolina went into them and beat them by 13 points. So, you know, I kind of like that about them. And then they got to play Louisville. That's the tricky one, in my opinion. I think if they can get by Louisville, then they're going to play a Notre Dame or Virginia team. And I think Notre Dame actually has a shot at upsetting Virginia here. If I'm going to fill out this bracket, I'm going to put Notre Dame ahead of Virginia. But and that would put them into the championship game where you can hedge that thing. As a matter of fact, you can hedge it in the semifinals too. You'd probably only have to lay about minus 200 there, and in the championship game, you know, you'd be laying maybe minus 350. So that's very affordable when you're getting at least 30-1, and you're only hedging them for 2 legs. And that'd be my plan here. Semifinals, I'd probably hedge it just to get a little bit more than my money back, maybe double. And then in the finals, I would hedge it to at least double the bet. So then you're going to be in for probably 15 units by then. But you still have 30-1, so you're still going to be rooting for North Carolina, obviously, to win it, even though you're going to be laying some juice with Duke or with Florida State. So I like the price on them. I like the desperation. And, you know, that's about it because there's no other prices in this ACC tournament that I like whatsoever. Florida State is plus 175. Duke's at plus 200. Absolutely not. Pac-12 is an interesting one, and UCLA is the 2 seed, yet they're at plus 700, and that's not terrible. The rest of them are junk. Stanford at 10-1, USC 10-1, ASU 12-1. Forget it. And the rest of the teams pretty much have no shot. Washington, Oregon State, Utah, California, you know, they have no shot. Oregon's plus 150. Heck, you can get that just playing 2 games. Their final 2 games on a money line rollover rather than just one. Now, they're definitely the class of it, but this is another situation where I like how the bracket broke out. I like the fact that you have Oregon, number 1, matched up with USC, and UCLA's number 2 seed. Arizona State is matched up against them as the number 3 seed. Yet, you know, UCLA is plus 700. You have Arizona at plus 275 there. But where's Arizona here? Arizona, top side. They're the most deadliest team, in my opinion, you know, compared to the Oregons. And I think, you know, they're on the same side. So you're probably looking decent with UCLA here. I don't love the plus 700. They have 3 legs to do this. I suppose they'll be favored. You know, they'll be favored against Stanford by 5 or 6 points at probably minus 200. And then they're going to play Arizona State, and it's going to be pretty close to a pick 'em. And then they're going to be at roughly plus 250, plus 300, I would say, against Oregon. If Oregon makes it. So the 700 is not terrible. I mean, it's just not. It's nothing to scream out at. So I'm thinking about that one, but have yet to make a play on that. The next one is the Big 12. Kansas is minus 125 to win it, and they probably should be. Kansas is definitely the best team. Baylor at plus 200. Terrible odds there. And Texas Tech at plus 600. Oklahoma at plus 1,000. I can't find West Virginia here for some reason. I'm going to check another book. There it is. West Virginia is at plus 800 here. So if you look at this bracket, the Big 12, it's probably going to be Kansas. I mean, they're the number 1 seed overall. But I do like that West Virginia is a 6 seed, and they are paired up against Oklahoma, and they are away from Kansas on that side. Okay? So Texas being the 4 seed, kind of crazy that they moved up to number 4. They just got their butts beat last game against Oklahoma State. But, in my opinion, Baylor is the faltering team right now, and West Virginia could be that sneaky tournament team that for some reason, Huggy Bear, Bob Huggins, just does a fantastic job in tournaments like this. So, Oklahoma first, yeah, but plus 800, not good enough for me because they still have to play Kansas. Kansas. Kansas is just too good, in my opinion. I will give you a lean on West Virginia at the plus 800 here. But, they could possibly even lose to Oklahoma. Oklahoma's a boomer bust type team, too. They did beat West Virginia already at West Virginia 73-62 on February 29th. So Oklahoma knows how to beat this team. But that's just another reason why I'm kind of staying off the Big 12 here. Next one we have odds on. The SEC, Kentucky at plus 175. What's going on with Ashton Higgins? How hurt is he? I have no idea what's going on there. I don't think he's actually hurt. I think he had a fight with Calipari. He's kind of been in a little bit of a slump, but not loving that. And because of that, I really don't like picking to Kentucky to win it. Now, I picked them to win it, but I'm not going to bet on them at plus 175. If it was at plus 300 or plus 350, maybe I would. But right now, the SEC is just too mixed for me. Auburn, I think they're extremely overrated, but they're coached so well by Bruce Pearl. They're able to, he's able to will them to win somehow. They have some talent on that team. LSU can play some sick offense, terrible defense. They've lost some really, really big head scratchers. Mississippi State, probably not even in the NCAA tournament, is going to be very, very motivated to win this. Florida might not be in the NCAA tournament. They're going to be motivated to win this. South Carolina, they're a 6 seed in this SEC tournament. I'm not sure if they're in either. Although they do have a nice win against Virginia and against Clemson. But losing that last game to Vanderbilt didn't really give a good case for them. They're 18-3. Whew. Yeah. There's just a lot of bubble teams here. A lot of teams that want to get in, and Kentucky has some weird issues. So, unfortunately, the SEC is one I'm going to stay away from for sure. The Atlantic 10, Dayton's at minus 350. Forget it. Not touching minus 350, but Dayton's going to win this thing. I'm not even sure if a money line rollover would help you there. How many legs does Dayton have here? Let's pull it up. Dayton has 3 legs. They're going to be laying probably minus 350 on all their games. Power rating wise, they're definitely at the top. The next one is probably VCU or Rhode Island. Yeah, VCU and Rhode Island are really close. Davison, they're kind of close too. But no, you're not going to kill it by taking the Dayton Flyers at all. I guess Richmond's an interesting one. They kind of got healthy. They're playing pretty well right now. I remember when Richmond beat my Badgers, but, they still have their own issues. Actually, looking at team rankings, they have Richmond higher than the rest of those teams. Same with KenPom. KenPom's got Richmond, the second best team in the Atlantic 10. And their only big win was against Wisconsin and nothing else. So they need to win it to get in. So that would be the question, if they can do that. But where Richmond is in the tournament here, they are on the bottom side of the bracket. And the money on Richmond is only plus 700. So definitely not worth it. You do a money line rollover and you'd probably be better off there. I mean, they'll be minus 150 their first game here against the winner of Davison versus LaSalle. You're going to think it's Davison. They'll be minus 150. So $100, 150 for the next game. Then they'll be about even money against Rhode Island. So there's $300, and they'll be plus 300 minimum against Dayton, and there's $900 right there. So you're already at better than 8-1 if you just did the money line rollover with Richmond. The Big East, that's a tough one there because Seton Hall's favored, and Villanova's next, and then Creighton is next. I thought that after what Creighton done, they would be favored in this one. Kind of shocked that they're not, but it's, all these teams are pretty close around the plus 300-ish range. Seton Hall plus 250, Villanova plus 300, Creighton plus 350. I think Providence is interesting at plus 600 here. They're kind of the wild card. They need it the most. Providence they do have the first round bye. It's going to be St. John's and Georgetown, and DePaul and Xavier playing each other. Forget DePaul, they're gone. Then Marquette's an interesting one because they're a bubble team and they got Howard. I'm not a huge Howard fan, but he does make it to the free throw line a ton. Marcus Howard. But then the rest of the team's kind of standing around watching him play, and that I find that kind of bad for team basketball. But you can make a case for a few of these teams. Providence is really interesting to me at plus 600, but they're going to be dogs. They're going to be pretty close to even against Butler. I think maybe Butler would be a slight favorite, so you get plus money there. Then you're going to get plus money against Creighton. And then the final game against Villanova or Seton Hall, you're going to get plus money. So there you go again. Mechanical parlay / moneyline rollover is your best way to go for this one as well. The odds to win the American Athletic Conference: Houston plus 200, Cincinnati plus 275, Wichita State plus 400, Memphis plus 450. I think that Houston is a good deal better than the rest of these teams. Plus 200 doesn't sound terrible to me here. They're number 14 on KenPom. Memphis is number 58. UConn's number 50, Cincinnati's number 45, Wichita State's number 39. This conference is all a bunch of just first 4 out, next 4 out type teams. I don't think that anybody's going to make the tournament except for Houston here unless they win it and they steal an at-large against somebody else. But I just think Houston's that much better than the rest of these guys. But what I will say, at plus 200, probably not going to play it like that. You probably still do better on a money line rollover. Next one, the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference, Siena plus 200, Rider plus 260, St. Peter's plus 470, Monmouth plus 500. This one's interesting. I think Siena's a little bit better than the rest of these guys. They have I've watched a few Siena games. They're on a tear kind of towards the end a little bit. But Iona used to win this one a lot. I can make a case for St. Peter's. I can make a case for Rider here. I did bet this conference a little bit, and I do know a little bit about it. But what I will say is that Siena should be the clear favorite for it. Let's see how they finish the season. They rank 148 on KenPom, which ain't terrible. They've been on a 9-game winning streak. Haven't lost since St. Peter's on February 2nd, and it was an away game. They did have a close game recently against Marist, but they eventually won that game. They're winning by a lot more than kind of at the end. Marist came back. They beat Niagara and Monmouth very, very easily. No problems there. So I do think Seton Hall's the team here. St. Peter's, like I said, is in Rider is kind of interesting, but St. Peter's lost against Niagara recently. Canisius, they only won by 1 point away. Iona, they only won by 3 points at home. It's Siena for me. And plus the rest of them don't really have a ton of good odds on them. So the MEAC is next, Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference. I don't know a ton about this one. I know North Carolina A&T is at plus 250 and Norfolk State is at plus 255. You can have this conference. I didn't make a lot of bets in it, so I'm not going to sit there and talk like I did. Same with the SWAC, the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Prairie View A&M is the clear favorite at plus 140, and none of the other teams really stacked up against Prairie View too well. Prairie View is ranked 215 on KenPom. The rest of these teams are all in the very high 200s. Most of them are in the 300s here. So Prairie View, one thing I will say is they did have a bad end to their season. Lost to Elkhorn State, and then they lost in overtime against Southern. So that's kind of interesting. But I just don't know who else I would pick. And I think that's about it for the ones that we're going to talk about here. The one thing I will say is I'm going to do a money line rollover, and I already started on the MAC conference on Ohio. I just like the way Ohio's been playing, and we won today on that, and I started pretty low. But, it took me a while to come up with that play. I saw that Buffalo lost already today, though. But what I do like is at the end, Ohio beat Buffalo on February 25th. Then they beat Kent State. Then they lost at Akron by 7 points, but at least it was at Akron. Then they beat Miami of Ohio away, and then they just destroyed Central Michigan. So I kind of think they caught some heat here. And I do like how Coach Jeff Bowles does with this team at the end of the season. He seemed to do a pretty good job motivating them. They have Akron next on deck, so that's pretty much going to tell me everything I need to know. But I'm liking Ohio there, and I think they have a good shot to win this. So want to get into a free play for the Big Ten on Wednesday. You have Indiana playing Nebraska, and one thing that I do always say about Nebraska is they play fast and they lose fast. Okay. Now, yes, they've a couple games they went away and only lost to Illinois by 12, only lost to Maryland by 2 points. We've seen a little bit about that. We saw them only lose to Rutgers by 3 points. Well, I think that's mostly the exception. I think this team has been defeated. The players kind of seem a little bit sick of playing. They lost to Michigan by roughly 24 points just a couple weeks ago. Like a week ago. Then they lost to Minnesota by over 30 points. And then now they're going to play Indiana, and Indiana is a pissed off, motivated team. You know, the projected total on this game is going to be about 144. I like the total over for a couple units, and I also like a little bit less. I like Indiana's minus 12. So Indiana, they're desperate. They're going to play extremely hard. The second string is going to come in when they're going to be up by 12, 14 points. But then the second string is going to beat Nebraska as well. That's sometimes what happens. The whole team is going to be motivated here. I expect Indiana to win by at least 15 points. They still have had some great recruiting over the last few years under Archie Miller. He has not made some good decisions, obviously, but this is the time that Indiana needs to shine. And the fact that this is in Indianapolis makes this kind of closer to a home game for Indiana. So, liking them, don't think there's going to be a lot of Rutgers fans showing up this year for this tournament. So, we're going to take Indiana here, and we're going to lay the points. All right, my friends, that's all the time we have for the show this week. For Tuesday, the next show will be on Thursday night / Friday morning with another guest. Have a fantastic week, and as always, go get some